Hello, everyone. We're so happy to have you here with us this afternoon. My name's Michael Swaim, and you found yourself at another edition of News, Games, and More. Every weekday at 4 PST, when it is. There's times when it's not. Joining me are David Griffin, Casey DeFreitas, and Ryan McCaffrey. Your your Thursday crew, the rightful Thursday crew. You don't know this, but behind the scenes, these are the people that should be here. Always good to see you guys. Happy Thursday. Happy
Happy
Friday
Hello,
Eve.
hello.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Happy Friday Eve.
And
Friday
right
Eve.
off the bat here, our headline story, I'm telling all of y'all, it's Sabotage. Yeah, so the news that broke today that Bethesda and their parent company ZeniMax Studios are being drawn into a $100 million legal dispute based on the accusation that, let me get this right, by publisher Ragnarok Games, that Human Head Studio, now Roundhouse Studio and now owned by Bethesda, were involved in intentional sabotage of two of their games. In fact, although Rune 2 is the one people are really focusing on, there was another game, Oblivion Song, based on a Robert Kirkman comic series that never made it out of the gate. But their title, Rune 2, the accusation is that it's been sabotaged. I'm going to go to Ryan first. Thoughts on, first of all, I don't know. I think it's probably premature to weigh on whether we think this happened or not, although I've got some quotes from both parties. But what would this mean in terms of the industry and especially in the light of the recent Bethesda purchase by Microsoft?
Well, yeah, you definitely can look at this from a couple sides, and this is what the legal process is for, is to figure out who's telling the truth. But on the one hand, hey, Bethesda now getting sucked into this lawsuit now that they've been acquired by a much wealthier company and Microsoft. That's not an attempt at a payday at all. On the other hand, in the story, which I figure you're going to go over a couple more details here in a second, but one of the accusations is that Human Head Studios sent Bethesda a copy of the game, like a build of the game ahead of time, to as sort of a as if they were in cahoots, and that definitely looks bad if you're sending your unreleased game to somebody that's has nothing to do with your game, and then you end up being acquired by them. That's a bad look. So you got definitely there's sort of probable cause, if you will, on both sides. And I hate to both sides this, but it really does. I like I could there are definite reasons on either side here where you might go, okay, well, maybe it is their fault, or well, maybe it is their fault. So yeah, this is a juicy story for sure.
I
Yeah, see
know.
a lot of people weighing in on both sides with great authority, with the authority that only being anonymous on the internet can grant you. But yeah, a lot of action on both sides. I don't think people are really settled on this issue. Casey, thoughts on this
Yeah,
development?
I was just going to say, so we got a Room 2 trailer for some new uh I don't know if I want to call it's been a while, but for Gamescom, we got a new trailer for Rune 2, and I kind of got sucked down into the rabbit hole of this whole story. And I remember coming away from reading those multiple articles feeling bad for Ragnarok because the overall story is that the developers, Human Head Studios, are working with Ragnarok Games to make Rune 2, made it, published it, and then released it with plans to do more DLC and more content as games as a service. And then they abandoned the project the day it released, and then refused to give the source code to Ragnarok Games so they could continue working on it, which is the biggest red flag in my head, in my mind, because at the time I was like, oh, like if Human Head Studios was having a hard time, was offered to be purchased, you do what's best for your company, right? But then why prevent Ragnarok from continuing to work on their own IP? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So,
Right, and the wording's pretty extreme. They accuse him of quote, or they said, quote, "Rune 2 was maliciously torpedoed in a conspiracy between the game's developer, desperate for cash, and a large video game conglomerate intent on destroying threats to its own video game franchises." So they're definitely, it's not necessarily at the same scale, but it reminds me a bit of the Epic versus Apple thing that's going on, only in the sense that they are really, I think, trying to position themselves as, and they may well be, small plucky artists getting rolled over and taken advantage of by like the corporate megastructure. Uh, and they may be. I don't know. David, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if this is a good analogy, but it just kind of reminds me when you watch those old mobster movies, and they take over a bar and they use it up for all the money it has, and then when the money runs out, they burn it for the insurance money. And it sounds really shady if this is indeed all true. It just seems like I don't get why they do that. Like, couldn't they take the law? I don't know. These companies, especially the ones that are buying these companies, have so much money. Couldn't they? I don't know if they couldn't take the hit or something like that. But it seems very shady. And like Casey was saying, it just seems very confusing. I don't get it.
I will say this would all be moot if the game were good, but I played a bit of Rune 2 in preview for IGN before it came out, and at least close to its launch, it was definitely bad. So there, as far as the accusation that they torpedoed it, well, if it were good, it would be hard to levy that accusation. It's not good, so we at least got that leg to stand on.
Interesting case to try and prove in a court of law. The game sucks, Your Honor. The loop is boring and uninspired.
Clearly, you can see from these
Yeah.
charts behind me that this game is bad.
But yeah, I saw your preview. You were comparing it more to a different IP, but obviously the contention here, just to be clear, is that they would have torpedoed it to avoid it competing with the Elder Scrolls IP in the Elder Scrolls universe.
It's
And
nothing
and-
like the Elder
Yeah,
Scrolls.
and I didn't see that at all. Like, I don't understand that comparison.
You were comparing it more to God of War. That's right. In the preview.
Yeah, it was a very cheap, very not good home God of War type game is what it was aiming for.
Mm-hmm. Well, there
So-
you go. I mean, if we were detectives, there's your motive, which is kind of lacking. But Casey, you're
So-
gonna say.
I was just gonna say Mario Madness asked, doesn't Rune 2 come out November 13th, like launch day? It came out last year in November and was supposed to have continuous updates, so that new date might be for new content. But yeah, no, that game came out last year.
In the before times.
Capitation edition. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all we know so far about that, but we'll certainly keep you updated. In lighter news, let's check out some pictures of Tom Holland as Nathan Drake, huh? Can we get that up on the big screen? We've got our first look at I'm stalling so that the stream can catch up and I can see what we're talking about. You got it right, audience. Our first look at Tom Holland as Nathan Drake, as well as on set with Nolan North, the voice actor for Nathan Drake, which of course is kind of neat and thrilling. There we go. Anyone, I'll just open it to the floor. Anyone have any strong visceral reaction to this? I'll say I'm coming at it as someone who wasn't convinced Tom Holland is a good Nathan Drake. I am slightly more convinced now. This photo convinces me a bit. Other people thoughts. Let's go reverse order this time. David, what do you think?
I think he looks great. I was in kind of the same boat as you were, Swam. I guess when we first started hearing rumors about the film being in development, of course, the Nathan Fillion video came out. We're like, oh, Nathan Fillion. It's the same with Green Lantern. Like, oh, Nathan Fillion should just play every geek character out there. I mean, everybody loves Nathan Fillion, but then they said they wanted to go in a little bit of a younger direction. They said they were casting Tom Holland, and then it's like, well, okay, well, we've seen Nathan Drake young before. I think it was Uncharted 3. We had the flashback scene, and of course, in the latest Uncharted, we got to see him as a youngster as well. So I like the fact that they're starting young. I mean, I think it would be cool. I mean, the ultimate casting would have Holland and Fillion both, and they could flash back and forth. But I don't mind if they're starting young with him. They can always cast older as a franchise if it's successful goes on. I mean, video game movies don't have the best track record, so I think bottom line, casting aside, I'm just really hoping that this sticks the landing. But I think in that first photo we see of him, I think he looks great. I like Tom Holland ever since started watching him in Spider-Man. I think he's a good actor. So I think the film's in capable hands.
I do too. I just felt like if you're gonna do Indiana Jones, just do it. Let him be an adult. And it doesn't look like he's necessarily super young or like teen orphan, rough around the edges Nathan Drake. I think they're sort of aging him up, and he's gonna be full on Nathan Drake. So as long as you're doing the thing that you said you were gonna do, that's fine with me. Casey, what do you think?
I think this is fine. I mean, when I originally heard that Tom Holland was being cast as Nathan Drake, I was like, that's weird. He's way too young. But it makes complete sense because this is happening before the games with a young Nathan Drake. So here is a young Nathan Drake. Someone in the chat, I think, said it looked like a college student trying to cosplay. And it's like, doesn't everyone look like a college student trying to cosplay as your future self back when you're a college student?
Ooh, trippy.
But no, I think he looks great. I think it looks fine. I have no strong opinions other than that. I like Tom Holland.
We
He
gotta
is
let him
a
soak it up a bit, though. Leave the
yeah.
image up for a little bit. I agree with Israel Alves Ferreira in chat who says, "I don't like about Sully, though." I'm not even though now I've seen this, my concerns around Sully are not dispelled. Ryan, what do you think?
This is like Shia LaBeouf as Indiana Jones. This is Tom Holland and myself have one thing in common, and that is we have Spider-Man bodies. We have like just skeletal, not like he's he's got no meat on him, just like me. And it's even as young Drake, it is a little weird to see like a guy built like me who's supposed to be, doing the crazy upper body strength stuff that that Uncharted requires. I mean, he is great. He's fantastic actor. Um, and history suggests that when usually when fans like us are really upset and like bewildered over a casting of a major part, we've often been wrong and Hollywood's often been right. I mean, look at Michael Keaton as Batman. Look at Heath
Mhm.
Ledger as the Joker. I mean, there are a lot of examples of this over time. So, once we see him in action in a teaser or trailer of some kind, we'll really get an idea. But yeah, the photo, the college cosplay thing from somebody in the audience there is a pretty good take. I mean, yeah, he just doesn't. He looks like me trying to be Nathan Drake, which I couldn't pull it off, but we'll see what happens.
Anyone can wear the shoulder holsters.
That's
You could
right.
wear the shoulder holsters.
It's like yeah, yeah, that was oh JG as Robin. No, that you'd get beaten into a pulp on the first night out of the Batcave. Anyway, let's
Ask a
move on.
slightly more general question, or just maybe I'll just make my point if there's thundering silence after this. Can anyone argue for why we really need an Uncharted movie, given that the games are so cinematic? Am I
I mean,
crazy?
honestly, like that was the other. I'm glad you brought that up. I know I'm totally hating on this, and I don't want to be that guy, but how troubled this project has been trying to get off the ground. Like history, David could probably speak to this much better than I could, but history suggests that a project that's had this many problems probably won't end well. I think the track record is a lot more bad than it is good on this. When these like David, I don't know if there are any good examples of projects that have been in development hell and really troubled for a while that actually turn out awesome, particularly a video game movie.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we always, on the entertainment team, we'd always have these discussions about how comes there's so many video game projects that just don't translate well into film. And I don't know if I've ever come up with a good answer for it. I mean, one of my favorite video games growing up was the Wing Commander series. You had Mark Hamill, Malcolm McDowell, Jonathan Rhys Davies. They had they're, old and dated, but they had live action cinematics in the game. And then they made the live action movie with Freddie Prinze Jr. and all these guys. It just did not work. It wasn't very good. Sorry if there's any Wing Commander movie fans out there. Apologize. But for me, it just didn't work. So I don't know. I'm always hoping that it's going to be good. I mean, I don't know. I love the first Mortal Kombat film. I have a soft spot for it. I mean, I know it's corny, but I have a soft spot for it. So I'm hoping this is going to change things. But yeah, that whole debate, that whole conversation about video games going to film, it's interesting. I don't know. People really, I think, love Henry Cavill as The Witcher. I know our review personally wasn't on the most positive side, but I know a lot of people really love Henry Cavill as Geralt. So I don't know. Maybe that's one example.
Just wanted to point out a comment from chat. Ron Gold 360 says a movie could bring in a new audience for non-gamers that haven't had interesting games or even cinematic games and create a new fan base. So, yeah,
Good point.
good point.
I mean, that's why video game companies do these movies. It's for exactly that reason, and eventually we'll get a good one.
When are we getting that Super Mario movie? Whatever happened to that?
Oh, the animated one.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good like the pandemic probably wouldn't have held that up as much as it would a live action shoot. That's a
yeah.
boy, thank you for bringing that up. I hadn't thought about that in a long
I
time.
haven't either. I completely forgot it was happening.
DreamWorks, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so. Hmm.
Random note, Ryan.
Agreed.
I assume we're about the same age. I actually remember going to see the live action
Oh yeah.
Mario Brothers movie in the theater. I remember my mom taking
Yep.
me. That was a big day. It doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold up. But
No.
when I was a kid, I was so excited to see that.
Yeah, that was walked out of the theater scratching my head after that one. Did we lose? Oh, we
Did we
lost.
lose
I
Swaim?
lost Swaim.
I can't
Yeah, I
hear
can't
Swaim.
hear him. He's the muted. He's
I could just keep talking. Well,
Let's
He,
keep
he was
talking.
turned off by
Well,
our Super Mario
try to
movie
get him
talk. He's
back.
like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah, that was it. He's done. But
Well, I can read through the comments that were left on the article
please.
about Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. This is from Mihoimani. This is a weird name. But they said it looks pretty good, surprisingly enough. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, this is from Slice of Heaven, and they said this looks like a disaster. I don't know how you can tell how much of a disaster a movie looks like from like
How about now?
2 pictures. Hello, Swaim is
Oh,
back.
back.
okay. Please continue though.
Our
Great.
host
That's
has
good news.
returned.
No, I was just saying, how can you tell a movie looks like a disaster from 2 pictures?
You can't.
No.
Omniscient. We've got some omniscient commenters.
No, although there is Venom overlap. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how video game movies work overall. We've had some winners, a lot of losers, but I hope that's shifting. A lot of people asking, as always happens, when we talked about Bethesda, that was at the top before my unfortunate technical conscious uncoupling from the stream and recoupling. I couldn't stay mad. So just rewind, hit the rewind if you want to hear about the Bethesda thing, because we are moving on to news that's not in the headlines. So this would actually be when you would learn new things. Hey, isn't that great? Hideo Kojima working on a new game. That's about all we know. And I want to point out that there's always a lot of confusion around Hideo because he does what he wants and he says what he means at any given time. I loved this paragraph from our article covering the most recent update that he's working on a new game. Kojima himself has repeatedly hinted at and denied the idea of potential games following Death Stranding, revealing that he's been watching scary movies to inspire a new horror game. However, he's also quashed rumors he was making a Silent Hill game and potentially teased a Death Stranding sequel. So he's also contradicted himself.
And he also
he won't-
said he wasn't going to be working on a Metal Gear Solid game either, and that was back in May. So
Well, yeah, Konami still owns Silent Hill and Metal Gear,
Mhm.
and so he will not be working on either of those for the foreseeable future after that divorce.
Yeah. But confirmed on Twitter, the studio is seeking, quote, or says a new project is in development, and they're looking to hire the best in class talent to work out of our Tokyo studio to design, quote, weapons, gadgets, vehicles, and mechas. Very interesting. And, quote, have experience with event control systems in RPG. So mech and RPG elements definitely implies some kind of Metal Gear game, but that seems highly unlikely. But I wonder if it will even be and any kind of spiritual cousin to or taking back of the Metal Gear idea. What do you think,
Metal
Ryan?
Beer. It takes place at a brewery.
All right, what do you think, David?
What? Sorry, Swaim?
Oh, I was just asking for general thoughts. Are you
Sorry.
a
Sorry.
Kojima
I
guy?
cut off for me for a second. No, yeah. Not really. Death Stranding, just like it looked. I kept hearing the whole walking simulator thing, and I know it's more than that. I know there's more going on. I know he's a very ambitious
much
guy.
more.
I've never really gotten into his games before, and it's my fault because I haven't really given him a lot of them a chance. So it's all on me. But there's so much buzz around his product. I love watching the trailers. I remember when Death Stranding was coming out, I thought the trailers were just really cool. Just something you could just never knew what was going to happen or what the story was even about. And I still don't because I haven't played it. So, but he's one of those guys. It's like a big director, like a Michael, like a Scorsese or something like that. He's one of those guys that carries a lot of weight. So every time I hear his name, I do pay attention. So I am curious to see what he's going to work on. I never got to play that Silent Hill demo
PT.
PT?
PT. I never had to play that. So if he made a horror game, I'd like to try it. I know I can't do that, but whatever. If he does like a new project, new IP, that would be cool.
Although he's both said in the past that he's working on a horror game and that he's a baby and he can't watch horror movies or play horror games. So who knows? I found a commenter I very much agree with about Death Stranding, DPH996, who said, subjectively, you may not have enjoyed it. even if you played it, and that's fine. But objectively, the game presented new ideas, was technically impressive, and from an artistic perspective, it dared to push boundaries. I love that game. I like almost every Hideo game I played. I do think Metal Gear got really indulgent with the cutscenes, but I especially love Death Stranding, and I'm very eager to see whatever it is. In the same way that David just outlined, like, which is very interesting and rare in games. I'm interested to see what innovations in gaming this particular human will make, like an auteur director. Casey,
Yeah,
you
so
excited?
both
Are you a Hideo fan?
I mean, yeah, I think his stories are always incredibly interesting. And Mario Madness and Israel Alves Ferreira both mentioned that he is BFFs with del Toro now, and their original game with his original game with him got canceled. So maybe he
Yeah,
will
PT.
create something new, completely separate from PT with him and do another horror game.
Mhm.
So I think that would be interesting and cool because I mean, I really liked what we saw from PT, and I don't think a horror game that Kojima works on has to be in any way related to Silent Hill. Like, I don't think PT needed to have a Silent Hill moniker. Like, that could have been a completely standalone IP and
Definitely.
been and done fine. So I don't know. That's what I'm thinking and what I kind of hope to see, even if
Although
I can't play it because it's too spooky for me. But
I know I should have known this at this point in my gaming life, but I just finally got curious enough to be like, what's PT stand for? I bet it's something spooky. Playable test.
Playable teaser.
yeah,
Playable teaser. That's it. It's just like game name document.
Mhm.
But yeah, great game. Great test. Great teaser. All right, moving on. People still asking in chat, so I'll mention this is something we should maybe do. The game is evolving. The show is evolving before your very eyes. Um, Bethesda was accused of sabotage, specifically sabotaging Ragnarok developers' game Rune 2. If you want to know more about that story, you can rewind this video and check out the top of the episode. But we have to pay honor and respect to the passing of Quibi. Quibi is shutting down after a Quibi-sized length of tenure, I suppose, about 6
Lifespan.
months. Founded in April of 2020, co-founders Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman have issued an official statement and apology regarding the closure of the short-lived service, which raised over $2 billion in capital and existed for about 6 months. During that time, they said that they would only exist on your phones, and then they took that back when COVID forced quarantine. Man, it's been a wild Quibi ride. Let's just go around and share favorite Quibi moments. No, really, did anyone actually engage with the app before it was gone? I never touched Quibi or like ventured into Quibi, even though the Reno 911 show interested me. I just never found the time. David,
I have a
Quibi?
review of Quibi on IGN.com. If you type in, Quibi review, you'll see my review. Of course, that's back when it first launched. Now, this is, I mean, it's kind of sad because, I mean, Katzenberg. So, if anybody doesn't know Jeffrey Katzenberg, if you've ever seen a DreamWorks movie with the little kid with the fishing pole, sitting on the moon, and you see that SKG logo, that Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen. I mean, they've all sold different shares and made a lot of money off DreamWorks. They've kind of gone their own ways, but at one point, Jeffrey Katzenberg was the head of DreamWorks Animation. So How to Train Your Dragon. I love that franchise. Those kind of movies, those were all, from him. Under his watch. And he sold, his stakes, and DreamWorks made a ton of cash. The guy's loaded and raised a bunch of money, $2 billion to invest in this company that launched just right around the time when COVID was starting to hit. And his whole idea with this thing is you take your cell phone and you'd be at a coffee shop. And then maybe you'd think, oh, there's a show with, Liam Hemsworth and Christoph Waltz. It's a new thriller. I want to watch it. I got to wait for my coffee. I only have 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So you could watch an episode in 5 or 6 minutes on your phone and then just kind of watch different episodes throughout the day. That was his thought. And then COVID hit, and then no one was going out. No one was at coffee shops. But even without COVID, I mean, this is just my opinion. I never liked the idea. And it's not because I have foresight. I'm not Jeffrey Katzenberg. He's been very, very successful. So I'm not going to start picking on him as a businessman. He knows more than I do, but I just don't think that I know we have short attention spans. I know the YouTube algorithms prove that people only watch videos for a certain amount of seconds before turning them off. But shows like Game of Thrones, Stranger Things, The Witcher, I mean, Netflix claims that The Witcher had 72 million viewers in the first month of launch. People can sit down and watch an hour-long drama if it's good. yes, we have short attention spans. We'll turn something off if we don't like it. But if you make good content, I think people are going to watch it. So the whole quick bites thing, I just never really, I don't want to see Liam Hemsworth and Christoph Waltz for 7 minutes and then flip to, I don't know. I
I
never liked the
forgot it means
idea.
quick bites. That's
Quick
right.
bites.
Quick
Yeah. It
little
means quick
bites of
bites.
story. Yeah.
Episodes in 10 minutes or less. So, I mean, I'm sad because there's people that are, losing jobs and things. I hope everybody, bounces back. I mean, Katzenberg's fine, but it's too bad because it was an interesting idea, but I just I didn't get it. I don't think people's, I'd be curious to hear what the chat's saying. I don't think people's attention spans are that short. I think people like hour-long shows as long as they're good.
Yeah, someone in the comments, I think, laid it out fairly well. They were talking about how we're moving. This is not the direction. I mean, it might be. It might be they wanted it to be the third generation of film platforms, is something they called it in an interview. Katzenberg and Whitman, and I think they mean, it's like Kojima saying, "I invented strand genre, a whole new game." They were trying to spin it as like watching a show that has high production value, but in these tiny chunks while you're on the train or, in the passenger seat in the carpool lane, whatever, is going to be a thing. And that may well be true, but definitely with quarantine and even without, I think something we just happen to be seeing is shorter seasons of longer episodes with a wider variety of shows sort of diving in and constantly replacing each other. And I don't pretend to know why all the reason that's the trend, but I don't necessarily see. There was a time on the internet where every analytic told you to make the video shorter and shorter. Can it be a 1 second video? And that's not the case anymore. Even, I mean, behind the scenes at IGN, analytics don't necessarily tell us consumers want you to just get through it as quickly as possible. That's not really the case anymore. So I think Quibi definitely suffered from that. I'm glad you brought up the people losing jobs because I just transplanted from LA about a year ago. Almost everyone I know in the creative field, their job became Quibi and now has immediately fallen apart. And I just think it's interesting that if you have enough money, you have that kind of inertia. You can make everyone get in line behind your idea and then leave them holding the bag. And finally, an important point, just because someone's rich doesn't mean they're smarter than you, David. You
Oh,
are
thanks
just
for
as good a
saying that. Thanks for
businessman
saying
as
that.
Jeffrey Katzenberg. I
Can I
just
say
think we
one
have that
positive
problem in
thing?
America. Go ahead.
I just want to say one positive thing about Quibi. Quibi had the smoothest UI on a phone. I loved it because they filmed especially their action and drama shows in two ways. They filmed it 16:9, and then I don't know if it's 4:3, but vertically. So when you turned
Mhm.
your phone, which was just so quick and so smooth, every time you turned the phone, you wouldn't miss out on anything in the frame. You would be seeing it the way they filmed it. They would film each scene twice, which I thought was, I mean, it seems a little gimmicky, but you are kind of moving your phone around depending on what you're doing. And I really like that idea that you could watch it horizontally in a more widescreen 16:9 format or vertically. So I mean, again, maybe a little gimmicky, but I thought it was a pretty cool feature.
I
It
heard
definitely made us scramble to figure out how IGN videos could do that, like in case Quibi
exactly what I was
suddenly
gonna
became
say.
dominant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did I steal your talking
No,
point?
no, no, no. I was literally just gonna say that. Like, I remember when Quibi came out, like IGN. Well, when Quibi was in talks of coming out,
Mhm.
we had those conversations around the office, like, how are we gonna do this? And I was like, oh no. But so I'm kind of glad we didn't have to do that.
It involves a fair amount of post-production work that you kinda don't wanna have to do. Yeah. But it's really cool when you flip it and it doesn't have to resize, you guys. Anyway, go check out Quibi and oh, wait. Ryan,
Oh
any
no.
Quibi thoughts before we move on and never speak of it ever
Yeah,
again?
I mean, I never gave it a look, but uh, I will say, like, hey, I'm all for new creative ideas, trying something new. I mean, that's sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but yeah, like throw it out there, and it's good to see people try a new format, try something new, and you know, in another time and another age, maybe it could have worked. So keep
Yeah.
the ideas coming.
Fairly and well said. Speaking of no, I don't have anything. Anyway, our next story is on Netflix's The Liberator. I tried,
Hey,
sometimes the improv
it's a
brain just
streaming
comes up
service.
empty.
It's a streaming service that isn't being canceled anytime soon,
Oh my
unlike
gosh.
Quibi.
Casey, Mariah, producer Mariah, can we switch the boxes? Can they just animate past each other so that Casey can take over hosting? That's right. Speaking of streaming services that aren't being canceled, Netflix, which stands for Internet Flickering Light that creates the illusion of motion. And they've got a new movie, World War II movie called The Liberator. We actually ran the trailer, the exclusive teaser trailer here on IGN today. And I know, David Griffin, you were the man who pressed the button that gave the teaser to the people. What do we know about The Liberator, and what are your first impressions based on the teaser trailer we got to see?
So this is I guess it's a 4-part mini series technically, and it's based on a book. So it's based on a true story. It takes place during World War II, and it uses I have to look over here. I need to make sure I don't get so this is a patent pending technology called enhanced hybrid animation. So it uses a combination of CGI and live action performance to give it this look. And we had a quote from the showrunner here, which was good. And he talks about that the reason why they did this is, I'm assuming, budgetary, but it also helped them tell this very, big story on, I guess, a smaller scale. And just I guess if they wanted to do it like Band of Brothers on HBO or something like that, it would have cost a fortune. So that's why they chose this animation style. It's unique. It takes a second to get used to. I don't know. Can I talk about? I don't know when the embargo is. I have
Ooh,
seen some of it.
better
I don't know
not,
if I
just
can. I
in
can't.
case.
I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say. I don't want Netflix to take away my privileges. No. But I think the animation style from the trailer is actually kind of cool. And if they can tell a bigger story and actually use I don't mind. I don't know. I know we've had this type of animation. There was that movie with was it Woody Harrelson years ago that used
Scanner
almost like
Darkly?
yeah, I don't know if that was Woody who was in there. Was that Keanu? I'm getting my actors mixed up.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Keanu's
we've
in
seen this
Scanner
kind of
Darkly.
animation before, but this
Mhm.
is supposedly a patent pending brand new style of live action and animation blend. So I'm definitely curious to see more of it. And I love World War II stories.
I have to imagine, and I can say this because I don't know anything, so if I'm right, I'm just guessing. But I have to imagine that it required full shoots. I mean, it looks so cell shaded or rotoscoped. It has to be, right? Like, there must exist footage of this movie that's maybe green screen background, but basically the full film. I
If I
guess. I
if I had to
think you
take a
don't.
guess, I
Yeah.
didn't get this quote from the showrunner, but if I had to take a guess, it was probably filmed minus the animation. I don't know if you remember that show Spartacus on Stars. And now that wasn't
Mm.
animated, it was live action, fully live action, but they shot everything inside, kind of like 300 did. There was no outside shots. Even if they looked like they were in a field or something, they're just in the studio. So I wonder if it looks like this may be done in a similar way where they weren't actually on location anywhere, but then they just animated over everything. So I mean, again, if you're on a constrained budget, this is a way to get a bigger project or a project out. I think that's a different way of doing it for sure.
Anyone
So
remember Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow?
Oh yeah,
no.
yeah.
Sure.
No. Casey, you were gonna say something?
Oh, I was just going to say chat is demanding that Ryan dresses up as Shaggy for Halloween.
Already did it like 5 years ago. Look it up on Twitter.
Thank you, original.
But
It was
that's
Uh,
with my last dog. Been there, done that.
And we need Akeem Lewanson to do the voice. His Shaggy voice is on point. You guys together could be like a rotoscoped, animated,
There
hybrid
you go.
Shaggy creature. Yeah. Ryan, did you get a chance to check out the teaser trailer? Do you like
Sure
World War
didn't.
II movies? What'd you
Move
think?
on.
All
Leave me
right.
out of this one. No, I'll check it out later. Yeah, I've been playing. I'm reviewing the Doom Eternal DLC, so I've been playing that all day, just locked into my computer. So haven't
That's
looked at much on IGN today.
harrowing gunplay in its own right. Well, something I know you did look at. See, that's a segue, Casey. Back off. Don't come for my job. Um, thinking of stuff. Speaking of stuff, I know you got your hands on the Falconeer on Xbox Series X. You are one of the lucky few who has a functioning Xbox Series X at your
For
disposal,
now.
and for now. And you got a chance to play Falconeer hands on at 120 frames per second or falcons per second. I the first and foremost, that's what I want to demystify. Just tell us about the Falconeer, because last week we talked a lot about the Xbox launch title list. We didn't mention the Falconeer, and honestly, I got a fair number of comments saying you guys are sleeping on the Falconeer. The Falconeer is pretty awesome, actually. So why don't you tell us about it?
So it's a one-man project, which is always pretty cool
Mm.
when somebody's just poured their entire heart, soul, and life into making a game by themselves. And it's fun. It, the thing that I can connect it to for Xbox fans is obviously there's nothing direct here, but it loosely reminded me in a very good way of the classic original Xbox game Crimson Sky's High Road to Revenge. It's aerial dogfighting, mostly over the water. It controls great. You can do cool like ducks and rolls and pitches and dives, and you're riding on this giant falcon. It's a warbird, which you can upgrade the stats of and sort of change. You can alter it between missions in various ways. And yeah, it's you're shooting down. You're having like aerial fights. You're shooting down stuff on the ground. Unlike Crimson Skies, you can't land your bird and get off of the bird and wander around on land at all. But I feel like I just haven't seen a game like this in a while. And I'm sure there have been other aerial dogfighting games, but on Xbox I haven't feel like I just haven't seen that in a while. And it I thought back to Crimson Skies in a very good way. And yeah, it'll run at up to 120 frames per second. There's two modes to choose from in the menu. If you go with 120 frames, if you have a TV monitor that supports it, it'll still run at 1800p, so almost 4K 120. But if you either choose not to run it in at 120 or your TV can't display that, it still give you a nice, pretty well seemingly locked 4K at 60 frames per second. So it's just really smooth, feels really good. The art style, it's got some nice stylized visuals. It's nothing that's gonna like really melt your eyeballs visually, but it looks nice, and it just plays really well. And I feel like it's just something we haven't seen a lot of in a long time.
Does it I suspect the answer, but does it feel next gen Does it feel like it justifies the Series X? I'm gonna guess no, despite its strengths.
I mean, yeah, nothing I've seen so far of the Xbox Series X launch lineup. We talked about this on Podcast Unlocked this week. I think this is the weakest. Not to get too off topic, but not that this is a bad launch lineup. There's a lot of variety, but I do think it's the weakest Xbox launch lineup of the now 4 generations of Xbox. Everything that you can play, like literally everything, is stuff that you can also play on the Xbox One. And it's not to say that these games aren't taking some advantage of the Series X. They are, but there just isn't that sort of killer next gen. Holy crap, you have to see this on the Series X yet. Now, granted, I haven't played everything in the launch lineup yet. I've played a handful of stuff, but like I'm sure Assassin's Creed Valhalla is going to look great on the Series X and what have you. But yeah, the absence of Halo, the Halo sized crater that's been left in the Xbox launch lineup is definitely pretty obvious. But that's not, all that is. That's aside. The Falconeer is super fun. It's one of those games where I think people might ordinarily just kind of breeze past it and go, Falconeer, okay, whatever. But hey, if me saying Crimson Skies brings back happy memories for you, give the Falconeer a look. I think it's only $30 when it does come out on November 10th. So check it out.
And that quiet launch lineup, or relatively speaking, might actually give a smaller game like this a chance to have a moment in the spotlight.
Fair point.
Casey, you weren't here last week when we talked Xbox launch lineup. I'm through our official run of stories. Did you have any Xbox launch lineups thoughts or Falconeer thoughts?
Honestly, I'm not that impressed with either of the launch lineups for either of the consoles. If I wasn't in an industry that meant I should be playing the new consoles as soon as possible, I probably wouldn't buy either of them at launch.
Damn.
I know Demon Souls looks really cool, but most of the games that are coming out that I really want to play are going to be available on both generations, the previous generation and the current one. So
Right.
if I was just if I didn't have to do games as a job, I would just wait until a special edition came out, until a slim version came out, until there's a game that I really needed to have that was only going to be out on a next gen console. I am interested in Godfall. I will say that. That's not an Xbox. But I do have a question from chat. This one is from Jordan, and they ask, Ryan, when will Tesla get Game Pass?
I'll tell you,
Sorry.
xCloud, I would not be surprised if in 3 years that's a thing that you can play Game Pass in your car. Like I can personally assure you there are a lot of Xbox employees that drive Teslas, and, and so it's like there's a natural interest there. Wouldn't surprise me at all if that really. I mean, we've already got Cuphead in the Tesla. We've already got Fallout Shelter is in the car, and there's a few other things too. So hey, Game Pass it's XCloud. It's not off the table. It is definitely a possibility.
It could. I could
Thank you
see
for
it.
the
Yeah, I
answer.
could definitely see that happening eventually. David, I'm not sure what to ask you, but I feel like you'd end the show on a good note for
Uh-oh.
us. What's new in your world, man? Like anything we overlooked this week? Anything interesting from your work on the site that you can highlight?
I just do. Oh
Shamelessly
yeah.
self-promotion.
Sorry, I'm getting married in 2 weeks, so my brain's a bit mush
Wait,
right.
wait,
That's
that's
all
the
I can think
thing. You
about
have
right
it.
now. Oh
Everyone
yeah,
loves
I'm getting
that.
married in 2 weeks from Saturday. Yeah, I'm gonna get married. So
That's the
that's
vibe we
kind of the
write
big
out
Congratulations.
on.
thing.
Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? Congratulations. It's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
It doesn't
No,
establish your credibility as a real gamer, but it is
thank you.
amazing.
I can't
All right.
say my thoughts on it, but I can tell because I won't see
Mhm.
the chat here until next week. So I would say look out for it's an animated series coming to Netflix called Blood of Zeus. It's coming out, I believe, next Tuesday. I would say maybe people should check it out if it comes up. That's all I can say. I would say, maybe it's a show that people might want to watch. It's from the animation studio that did Castlevania. So Blood of Zeus coming out. I would look out for that one. Yeah, that's all I'll
Nice.
say.
See, I knew you had something.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying you couldn't talk about your wedding.
I
It was
I
like
thought
you had
that
No,
too.
under
the, the,
embargo.
the, the wedding is not
Why?
embargoed. The embargo has lifted on the wedding. We can go all
Great.
in about the wedding. Yeah.
So how
No
much
one's
are you
coming
spending
after us.
on flowers? No.
Ooh.
Well,
Yeah, don't
final
answer that.
reminder.
Yeah.
Our headline story: Bethesda accused of sabotage by Ragnarok Games. We're not going to talk about again. We talked about that at the very top of the episode in detail. So just rewind to the beginning of the episode if you want to check that out. Or I bet someone helpful in the comments probably links directly to the moment the show starts because they always do. And we appreciate it. And we appreciate you for hanging out with us. This wraps up another News, Games, and More. We will be back tomorrow at the same time, 4 p.m. PST. And stick around in about 18 minutes because at 5 o'clock in the same place, youtube.com/IGN, we have a fresh episode of Up at Noon. I'm going to read the promo copy here.
Oh no. What happened?
Post it again.
Flame. No.
Swain, you're muted.
No.
Oh, I think. All right. Are we gonna have to? One of us
Who's
is gonna
got
have
it?
to wrap this up. I think we're. We're gonna wrap it
Yep.
up. For
can-
Swaim, David Griffin, and Casey DeFreitas, I'm not the host, Ryan. I'm so sorry that things go horribly wrong technically sometimes, but this has been News, Games, and More. We'll see you tomorrow.